last episode, we got started with our user service that allows us to be able to fetch the users that we have in our backend on the screen. And while that is wonderful, there's a couple of things that I would like for us to handle and refactor really quickly. My goal in this entire series is not just to build a throwaway project. I want to build a project that is not only robust enough and will teach you a lot of the complexities of what a SwiftUI project would look like in production, but also to follow the best practices as much as possible. And so there's a couple of things that we can quickly just optimize for. And so if we jump into our user service, if we take a look at this function that's responsible for paginating all of our users in the backend, as you can see, it's a little bit repetitive. We have an if-else statement that lets us know if we're doing an initial data pool, and we have another portion that helps us actually paginate from our users. And truth be told, we can flatten this a little bit and make it just a little bit more easier on the eyes to read. And the way we're going to do that is by refactoring this method really quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is just I'm going to comment out. I'm going to take this and comment out this entire function, and I'm going to recreate it. And this is going to be very quick. So it's the same signature, except now I am going to create a main snapshot, right, which is of type data snapshot. And I'm going to hold on to this here, because if you take a look at it, the differences between this if-else block is honestly just the main snapshot and some of the filtering logic. And how we're going to do that is we're going to say if last cursor is equals to nil, right, then main snapshot is going to be equals to this exact one that we have right here, this version of the main snapshot. Okay, so that's good. The next thing I would like for us to do is the else block, which is if we are paginating for more users, then main snapshot is going to be equals to Firebase constant user ref, and then we're going to grab all of the logic that we have right here, which is the query ordered by key, query ending, and all of those other good stuff. So let's paste that right here. Okay, that's good. It should stop yelling at us. All right, so the other thing that we need to do now is, now that we have the main snapshot filled into this property, all we have to do is collect, because there's similarities. We're basically duplicating this section. Honestly, not even just that alone. We're duplicating this and this and this and this. Like, that's a lot of duplication, and there's no need for us to do that. So all we're going to do is just copy all of this, take it right in here, and we're going to paste it here. I know there's a lot of copy pasting, but please just follow along. And what else do we need to do? So the first thing we need to do is, there's a little bit of a difference in this section of the code. First off, let's bring in this empty node logic, this empty node return logic. And then this section of this code where we're actually creating the user node, when we're paginating for more users, there's a little bit of a difference. And as you can see, we have filtered users, which is we're trying to make sure we're not getting duplicate data. And the way we're going to do that here is we're just going to copy this filtered user property here. We're going to go right back up here. We're going to paste it up here, but we're going to say filtered users, right? We're going to check if there's a last cursor. If there's a last cursor, then users, we're going to use the filter functionality, right? Well, we're going to say if last cursor is equals to nil, actually, sorry. If last cursor is equals to nil, then we're just going to return the users. If not, we're going to return the filtered version of the user. So we're going to pass in filtered users into our user node that we're creating right here. And I think that's pretty much it. The current cursor stays the same. We're using the first key in both instances. And as you can see, we've taken this code that's like, easily, we're flattening it by half, I think. If you take a good look at this, if you uncomment this and you put them side by side, that's a busy code right there. And when you remove all of that and you compare to this is so much more easier to reason about. And it does exactly the same thing, because we're going to make sure and validate that right now. So let's run the project on the simulator, make sure everything is still working and paginating as expected. And so we're going to go here, go to new channel, and let's see. As you can see, we're getting our print statements in our console. That means our pagination is working as expected. And yeah, everything is still working as expected. If we go to this, partner picker screen, same thing, still working as expected. So that's very good. I thought, we should throw in this refactor really quickly. The other thing I would like for us to handle before I forget is if we go inside of our group partner picker screen, or actually inside of our chat partner picker screen, I'm going to expand Xcode all the way. You notice we're doing an untap gesture here. And that works, but in all honesty, this should be a button and not just an untap gesture. And I'm going to refresh our SwiftUI preview really quickly. And I'm going to comment out this untap gesture. I'm going to create a button with a label, and I'm going to wrap this header view inside of the label. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, function that actually, this logic that actually fires the navigation, and I'm going to guard against the type. I'm going to say if the item is equals to, let's see, so we have all cases in our chat partner picker options. We're just doing the new group case. If it's equals to chat partner picker option dot new group, else return. Okay, and so this is only going to fire Wait a minute. Why is that not working? Is our logic incorrect? I'm going to remove this tab gesture code really quickly. Okay, so it turns out our edit item view is actually a button. So this entire approach has been wrong. If we command and click into our edit item button, all we need to do is just, add an untap handler here, basically a closure, a trailing closure that we can fire when this button is selected. And I'm just going to say untap handler. And we're going to go back up here. We're going to say, we're going to remove this edit item. Let's just take this, put it here, remove that, remove the button, and let's just pass in this edit item view that's going to fire. And so now the navigation is working. So the other thing I wanted to do earlier was to guard against this, which is going to say guard. We want to make sure that the item, we want to make sure this only fires if the item is equals to chat partner picker options, new group, else we're going to ignore that. And because in this series, we're not really going to be handling anything related to new contact or new communities, we're just going to be focusing on group channels. So that looks to be working exactly the way we want it to. The other thing that I want us to be able to do is inside of our chat partner picker view model. So if we jump inside of our chat partner picker view model and we go inside of the fetch users function, inside of the fetch user function, I want us to be able to filter out the current users. And so what I mean is if we go here, the currently logged in user, I believe, is QA user 53. And we can validate that by looking at our console. QA user 50 is the currently logged in user. And if we're fetching for users, as you can see, we're fetching QA user 50 as well. And that doesn't really make sense. You should not be able to create a channel or a group chat with yourself. So we're going to make sure we fix for that edge case. And I'm just going to come right down here and I'm going to get the currently logged in user's ID. So we need to import Firebase. And now with the current user ID, I can filter for the fetched users. And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to store the actual users in a property called fetched users. So I'll say user node.users. And I'm going to make this a variable. And I'm going to filter out the currently logged in user from that item. So I'm going to say fetched users, should be users, a plural. And I'm going to reassign it to fetched users, filter, and I'm going to compare the UIDs to make sure it's not the current UID. So what this does is it's going to get all of the items that we're fetching, remove the currently logged in user from that list because we don't want to be able to, we don't want a situation where we can create a new channel with our own current user. Like we don't want to chat with ourselves, essentially. It doesn't make sense for us to be able to create a channel with ourselves. Okay, so filter for that. And the last piece of that equation now is, so where we're saying self.append users, we're not going to say user node, we're going to say fetched users. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Everything else stays the same. We still want to use the same last cursor. And let's fire the project, see what's going on in the simulator, make sure everything is still working as expected, and make sure we're not fetching the currently logged in user. And so if we look at our console, QA user 50 is logged in. If we go in here and we paginate all the way to the end, we should not be seeing QA user 50 anywhere. And if we take a look, QA user 50 is nowhere to be found. And we can also tell it is correct because if we look at the counts right here from this print statement, it says 52. And we know that we have 53 items in our backend. So that means it's successfully filtering out the currently logged in users. And so that's pretty much it from this episode. I just wanted to make sure we handle some of these tiny edge cases and do these tiny refactors. I am going to be doing my best to make sure we're following best practices and just making sure we're writing code that looks clean and neat. And so in the next episode, let's get started and start talking about how to actually create channels. I'll see you guys in the next one. Please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. Bye.